Ed here with the Digital Digest, and today I wanted to share a first look at the GVM-50RS RGB video light. Now, this is a two-pack. Retails for roughly $450 US. You can buy these individually as well. They're around $240, and you can even pick up a three-pack. Now, this is the carry case, a little bit out of frame here, that comes with the two-pack. Fairly heavy because the lights themselves, the panels, the LED panels, are only around 4¼ pounds, but then throw in all of the included accessories that come in the package and the weight gets up there. But let me go ahead and get these out. I've gone over pricing. These are 50-watt lights. Again, RGB capable, 3200 to 5600K on the daylight side, which is really nice. But then having the RGB to boot is even more impressive. And they've been on the market for roughly a year. And you know, when GVM asked me if I'd be interested in checking these out, I said, send them over, because so far the GVM products that I have put my hands on, I've been impressed with them in terms of quality, overall build, and of course, value. And that's exactly what they're after. So first thing out of the box, let's take a look at this, which I assume is either going to be a diffuser or the barn doors for these LED panels. And by the way, these panels have 192 beads for the daylight function, thumb screws for these barn doors, and then they have 192 diodes for RGB capability. So that's a pretty nicely balanced setup, I would say. And being that they're 50-watt lights, you know, you'll have to determine how many you really need and what your distance will be for what you're shooting, whether we're talking about filmmaking or, of course, portrait photography, whatever it may be. That's what's beautiful about this setup, is that you have really solid flexibility. That's what I like about it, and that's why when they asked me if I was interested, again, I'm interested, because these would be, I think, something that I could get great use out of, and I think many of you out there that are subscribers will probably be in the same boat. So again, barn doors, which I like that they've included. These are critical to have, I think, for just about anyone. In my opinion, depending on how you plan on using this, it may or may not be more important than a diffuser, but of course, that's up to you. Let's take a look at the actual light itself. So here we can see we've got a diffuser on board already, and that's not going to do that much in order to make this really soft, but you can see all the diodes there, the beads, as I was talking about before, and it's pretty impressive. I mean, again, for a $240 light to have this much flexibility, it's, I would say, kind of a big deal. But let's flip it over and take a look at the other side. All aluminum build quality, by the way, for those of you that are wondering. And in terms of power source, you can either go with a Sony NP battery, which it does take 2 of them, as you may have already noticed, or you can use the included DC adapter, which I'll eventually get to. And battery life, from what I've read, ranges anywhere from 3 hours all the way down to 1 hour, and that depends, of course, on whether or not you're using the daylight RGB function, and then what level of brightness. I think the rating, the lux rating on this is somewhere around 16,000, so it's pretty good. I mean, when you think about strobes and where they sit, these are far, but not that far off. And again, depending on what you're trying to achieve, these are generally, I would say, more flexible, but it really depends on what you're going for. I've always been a fan of video light panels like this. I am using them presently. These will be, in my opinion, a solid upgrade. You also have wireless capability with this. There is an app that GVM has. I will be testing that out to see what performance is like. I don't think there's an included remote control, but if there is, we're going to see it in the box or the carry case right now as I go through it. But you can set up, I believe, up to 10 GVM lights, which is nice, of course, in a slave and master configuration, and group them. And that's pretty straightforward. I mean, that's not unique, but it is something critical if you're actually using these as your all-in-one solution, which, what else would you be doing? One knob here on the left controls the actual level of the brightness. The other one, I believe, is once you jump into the modes, because that is a button. This is not, so you can actually press in the right jog dial there. That will take you through the menus into the different lighting effects for RGB, because you are going to have to figure out where in the spectrum you're going to have to set it to get the desired RGB color you're looking for. Power switch, self-explanatory, menu navigation. That's pretty much it. We have mounting points if you choose to use them. And then, of course, standard U-mount for the actual light to connect it to a lighting stand. But overall, you know, they feel well built, and it's all going to be about how well they perform. And from a color accuracy standpoint, I'll have you know that these are also, at least as per GVM, very color accurate. So that's something you expect. Here is the other one. We'll just go fully unpacked. I can see the diffuser here is coming off a little bit. This one wasn't locked in, I'm assuming. But again, I just, GVM, so far, the products that I have seen, including the 600S ring light system, they've just been solid. And as well as the D2 slider, really like it. And I will be doing an update on the D2 soon. So if you're curious about the D2, hang in there. You're going to see that start to get integrated into my regular footage on the channel. So here's another barn door right here. Let's get into this pile of boxes and see what we've got. So I'm expecting several things. I believe this comes with the batteries. It should, but I'm not positive about that. Here we've got one power brick. And obviously we're going to have two. Not large, which I actually really like. It could have been much bigger. I'm assuming this is another power brick. And here's to hoping that we do end up finding an actual remote in here. But even if we don't, you do have the app, so that should prove to be an interesting way of utilizing wireless connectivity. So this is to power the power brick to an outlet. Let's keep it moving. What do we have here? Pick a side, any side. And, you know, there are a lot of manufacturers out there right now trying to deliver affordable lighting solutions for video and still capability. And I don't know, I've just found GVM to be above board, and they seem like everything, you know, there's an attention to detail. And as I've mentioned, build quality seems to be there. Until I start getting these going, I can't really say more than that. I can reference, of course, my experience with their other products, which I already did, the ring light with light bars and the slider, and I'm impressed with that. I mean, there are a lot of routes to go when you're picking out new equipment. So a lot of different manufacturers. In fact, a strobe I recently got is from one of GVM's competitors. I don't know if GVM will end up sending me a strobe as well, but if they do, I'll be happy to review it. And that's because, again, all of their products seem to be on point. And when they did offer to send me these, some more mounting equipment, I was more than happy to look at it, because as soon as I looked online, almost all of the, I'm assuming this is another set of them for the second panel, almost all of the reviews were overwhelmingly positive. And there's a reason. It's because they're not pushing out junk, and that's really important. So this is going to be one of the two stands. I'm only going to open up one of these, and that's another thing, by the way. The GVM stands I happen to like. I mean, they're not, reinventing the wheel, but I happen to really like what they've done with them. And this is the real diffuser that comes with it. And this actually gets mounted off of the light panel in order to make the light a little bit softer. And you can see the mounting holes right there and right there. So basically this is going to stand off of the unit, not stand, but probably, I don't know, 4 inches, something like that, off of the unit. Using those, you cannot, I believe, use this and the barn door simultaneously. I wish you could. That's really not that big of a deal. But if you need softer light, that's how you have to do it. You have to have it separated. There's got to be some distance between your diffuser and the panel itself. So if you just were to put this flush against the panel, you're not going to get the desired effect. You're not going to get that soft light that you are probably looking for. And then we have, of course, I'll open this one up. This is, as I mentioned, their actual rig, their stand, their lighting stand. And I like this because, yeah, you can go on Amazon and you can buy a lighting stand for very little. And this is very similar to those solutions, but I found, besides getting GVM branding, which I think it's wise of them to employ, it just seems like the ease of use on this, it just locks in a little bit better than the generic Amazon pieces that you get. And yeah, build seems to be better overall. I mean, yes, all of them claim to be aluminum, so that's nothing new. But, durability and just sitting right and being balanced is another issue. And at least the one that came with the 600S, I was impressed with, considering, again, it was an included stand. We'll see if the same applies to what I have here. Of course, until I start using them, I'm not going to know. I'm not going to speak until then. And guess what? Last item, which I'm assuming is some paperwork. So, of course, just giving their customer service phone number, email address, and address in San Fran. And, of course, GVMLED.com is their official website. They've got a pretty broad scope of products. So I am, as I've mentioned over and over again, impressed with what GVM is doing. They didn't come out of nowhere. I've known about them, but our relationship is new. And as a result, the products hitting the studio are all brand new, even if this has been out there for a year. So I'm excited. I think it's going to bring another level of production quality to the channel. And I think all of you will agree once you start seeing what performance is like. They're just explaining the wireless operation, master, slave mode. And that's straightforward. Again, reiterating the daylight 3200 to 5600K, and then being able to switch between the modes and then, change the grouping. So this is specifically for those of you like myself who have more than one of these lights. And, just a quick guide telling you how to install the barn doors, the soft filter, and as you can see, what's included right there, the carry bag, which I've been hovering above this entire time, the power line, aka power cable that hooks up to the power adapter, the soft diffusion plate, which I showed you earlier, and the packing box, nothing new there. And, it just takes you through all of the components and essentially how to set them up, how to power up. I like that you can use the NP batteries as well as a power source. That's not unique. Most lighting solutions like this give you that flexibility. But again, it's a matter of what you really need. I would say this is a fairly compact set when you think about being able to pick it up and go if you need it for travel. If you're doing things, out and about, doing some remote shoots, then this is probably a great solution, especially, I'm not even going to say on a budget, because if it accomplishes what you're after, then it's pretty much perfect, right? What kind of complaints can you have other than the fact that, as I mentioned, I didn't think there was a remote, and there isn't a remote. But that's not a big deal. Again, you have the app, you have control at the back of each of the lights. So I think that's a fairly solid balance. They're reminding you not to look directly into the light. Yeah, don't do that. You hear don't go towards the light, don't look at the light. Get it? You don't want to do that. But I'm just excited to put these to work, and in what capacity I'll be using them directly. They're definitely going to be diffused because these are going to be very bright for the size of my studio. Again, it depends on the scenario you're using them in. By the way, the CRI rating 97, the color, if you're interested in the color index, rendering index 97 plus. I thought I saw online 95, but CRI here is listed at 97 plus, and everything I've seen online is that these are very clean. They render correctly, and that's, of course, if you're out there buying a lighting solution, to not have a CRI rating comparable to this is you're doing yourself a disservice. Nothing new in terms of the flexibility of the mounting stand, but the beauty of this light really boils down to it being compact and having RGB capability beyond daylight. Because there are a million panels out there that do daylight. There aren't a million that do both RGB and daylight. So this really can accomplish pretty much any look that you could ever need. And that's the beauty of this system. That's the reason I told GVM, yeah, please send it over. And soon enough, you're going to see the change in lighting here in the studio. Also, when I'm on camera, that's going to be another phase where this is going to make a big difference. If I eventually get one of their the strobes in, that'll be interesting as well to see how they all sync up, how they work together. But overall, I think that this solution I know is already proven. The reviews are out there. So I'm just excited to put it to work and let all of you make a decision on your own as to what you think is performance beyond me giving my eventual review. Again, this was supposed to be a quick look, but there are a lot of components to this 2-pack. Any questions or comments, please feel free to post them. Hit that like button. And as usual, please feel free to subscribe. Later.